Over the weekend, U.S., Ukrainian, and Russian envoys met in Miami for talks aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. Now, while the discussions were called, quote, productive and constructive, no major breakthrough was announced. Now, the focus was on security guarantees, economic recovery, and a 20-point plan for peace. Joining me in studio to discuss this and more further is Marcin Bużański from the Center for Diplomacy and Negotiation, Director, Collegium Civitas. Marcin, so glad to have you here with us.
Good evening. Very happy to be here.
On World News tonight. So, Marcin, according to President Zelensky, this week's talks in Miami didn't really bring significant developments. I want to know what you think about this, and from your perspective, what are the biggest obstacles from Russia and Ukraine right now, preventing them to reach a final conclusion and ending to this conflict?
Well, frankly speaking, I'm not surprised at all. I didn't expect any outcome, any progress really to be announced from those talks, because looking at what was the latest that Europe has put on the table with Ukraine, this 20-point plan, which has been adapted with the new ideas for security guarantees, with the proposals of stationing of European countries' troops in Ukraine, with very strong electoral process and political process to be put in place to decide any future future of territory in Ukraine, all are things that Russia has completely and bluntly said it will not accept. So it's very hard to imagine that suddenly from day to day they would change that position. I think what was very important is that Europe took a bit of a more driving seat in this process, so that this Russian trap, because I think that's how we have to call the 28th
It's an interesting way to call it, right?
has been in some ways managed, a little bit averted, and from that perspective, it is good that those talks are continuing and that there is a will to engage with the U.S. initiative. Mm-hmm. But frankly speaking, the problem is on Russia's side. Russia doesn't want peace. It has stated that many, many times, and we're seeing statements from Putin, from his emissaries, from his envoys, much to the same. They're saying we're willing to engage in a peace process, But they're doing something completely opposite. They're bombarding Ukrainian cities day and out. So it's very hard to trust any declarations from Russia. And while the U.S., of course, is pressuring for any kind of results and for any kinds of concessions, and Ukraine has no choice but to engage with them and put good words into a difficult situation, the fact is that without the U.S. stepping in a bit harder to pressure Russia, I can't really see any kind of breakthroughs coming here. Of course, this is the reality we have.
Let me ask you, Marcin, can we officially confirm that, the U.S. is officially the mediator in this conflict right now? And what do you think, just go a little bit further into telling me how you think the U.S. is handling this mediation, this conflict resolution, process?
Well, the U.S. is not a mediator here in a traditional sense.
It's trying to be, though.
Yes, but if we think about mediator countries, usually more traditionally in peace processes, there are sometimes neutral countries like Switzerland or Norway. They've been mediating many times situations who have
possible interest or
exactly who really can do the shuttle diplomacy between sides. Here we have the U.S. Who also has been putting statements out which are sometimes conflicting with themselves, because they wanted to stop Russia on one hand. On the other hand, now they're seeing to engage more and more with Russia, and this new national defense strategy, national security strategy points to that. So the U.S. here seems to be, well, on one hand, an indispensable party still for Ukraine's support, for Ukraine's defense when it comes to intelligence, when it comes to providing weapons. They are paid off by Europe, but they're still coming a lot from the U.S. This is all very important. There's still some political position of the U.S. that they're supporting NATO in their stance against Russia. But on the other hand, we have the U.S. which is saying, well, if you don't cede territory, if you don't lose your sovereignty, we're going to let Putin march over you. And that's tragic, but we have those two voices at the same time. So this is the reality that both Ukraine and Europe has to grapple with.
All right, so speaking of voices, I want you to comment on Macron reportedly saying that he's ready to meet Vladimir Putin. What do you think about that? In general, should EU leaders be picking up the phone, talking to Putin and having these one-on-one, face-to-face meetings? meetings with him. Is that, do you think, going to bring something concrete to resolve this conflict?
Well, I would remind all of the European leaders, and particularly here I'm thinking about Macron, well, Schulz is no longer there, but they went several times to the Kremlin. They sat along this huge table with...
and what did they achieve?
They achieved completely nothing. The very, very days after that started, Russia started its
16 days
invasion.
later, we had an
Exactly.
earlier, right?
So we can't expect any changes here. I think there are ample reasons for these initiatives coming out now. First of all, Macron actually is under pressure from his right-wing parties in his country, from the Front National, from Bardella, so he wants to mitigate a little bit, saying that he wants peace, he doesn't want war with Russia, so he's showing arguments to that extent. Also, there's the question of the only line to the Kremlin coming from the US, and well, if the US is really hostile towards Europe, then we need to have one, even if it's almost pointless to talk, but at least we can say we are ready to, if there's real interest. Importantly, Macron did say he will not speak at any point without consultation with Zelensky and his other partners. But I think this is a message to Trump. This is a message to his political base. This is a message trying to say Europe can also be a party here and be involved in shaping up this process, because this is European security after all, and it's about the EU as well. But bottom line, in terms of effects that this could bring, in terms of stopping Russia, I don't believe that could happen.
I wonder what it is going to take Russia to stop. What about, I mean, now we know Europe committed 90 billion euros, right, into support for Ukraine, calls to keep Russian assets frozen. Do you think that this financial backing could actually influence the dynamics behind these peace negotiations?
Well, certainly. I mean,
if we can call it peace negotiations.
It was critical that this decision was made. If there wouldn't be financial backing secured, it would be a disaster for Ukraine at this summit. Now, it's not what we hoped for with the Russian frozen assets, with the full 200 billion backup loan for Ukraine, but it is still significant. It did show European unity, that there could be a compromise. And while it's not to the level where Europe really stands strategically, being more autonomous, showing that it can muscle up with the decision, we have seen a lot of internal European clashes here, be it with France, be it with between Germany and Italy, with Belgium, etc. In the end, there was still a compromise made that gives Ukraine a clear lifeline, at least for a year or two, where it can confidently engage in those peace negotiations, or quote, quasi-peace negotiations, keeping itself defending, supporting its defense forces and its economy to stay afloat. But while significant, it is of course not enough, considering the challenge that Ukraine is facing. As Europe, we have to really continue increasing our support to Ukraine.
Stepping up our game. Marcin, I want to shift gears a little bit. I mean, you did say internal European clashes, but I want to focus a little bit on Poland and this new poll that came out today, showing that 1 in 4 Poles would actually vote to leave the European Union. Now we're calling this the Pole exit. What do you think about this? What do you think is actually driving this Pole exit sentiment? Do you think it's going to be realistic?
Look, a couple of things here. First of all, I know it sounds dramatically that those 25% are thinking to leave, but if you look at the polling across Europe, this is actually still quite a strong support. This is not...
well, we're right behind France.
Not that bad.
Isn't Poland right behind France?
Yes,
right? Wanting to
exactly,
leave the EU?
but there are several countries which have even worse opinion. It's a worrying trend. We have to treat it very seriously, because there are forces working extremely hard, and it's of course it's Russia, but it's also the US that is pouring money into anti-European organizations, anti-European movements, and particularly using all the social media to try to push messaging that is harmful for Europe, and supporting this kind of tendencies. Now, this has to be managed very strongly with counter-communication campaigns that really show what Europe means, showing the societies its successes, because people think about, oh, it would be great to be fantastic independent, but they don't think, oh, we have to suddenly pay a couple of times more for our phones. We can't cross borders. We can send kids to schools, to good schools for however we want, etc. So I think there needs to be a shift in communication to realize this reality, and this is a major task for the political class, particularly pro-European political class that is in majority. And another important thing, our battle to understand the importance of the EU, the political narrative battle here, it should be treated as a core fundamental part of defending our country. So defending Poland today doesn't just mean building a shield against rockets or drones. It doesn't just mean getting our army up to shape. Right. It means being able to defend our position in the European Union, to defend the narrative so that the people are not manipulated through external actors. This is very, very important and should be treated with that urgency. Again, it's not to panic, but to treat it seriously.
A very important perspective. Thank you so much, Marcin Bużański, for breaking it down for us here on World News Tonight on TVP World.
A pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for watching this episode of World News Tonight. I'm Diana Skaya. We'll see you next time.